call the Wednesday, June 1st meeting of the Hammond Advisory Board of Zoning Appeals to order. Could we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Could we have a roll call, please?
Roger Brock.
Here.
William Hutton.
Here.
Dennis Radowski.
Here.
Nancy Reagan.
Here.
Kathleen Hill.
Present.
5 present. We have a quorum.
Okay, we have the minutes for January 20, isn't it the 22nd or the 25th? Is there a correction that needs to be made on that? Because the minutes are dated January 25th, and the approval is for January 22nd, and we want to make sure we do it right.
January 25th.
Okay, so it should be the January 25th meeting. Do we have could we have a motion to approve the minutes for January 25th, 2022?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, and you want a voice call, right? Roll call?
Dennis Radowski.
Yes.
Nancy Reagan.
Yes.
Roger Brock.
Yes.
William Hutton.
Yes.
Kathleen Hill.
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays, 0 abstentions. Motion passed.
And could we have a motion to table the minutes for February 23rd, 2022, and March 29th, 2022?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Could we have a roll call vote?
Dennis Radowski.
Yes.
Nancy Reagan.
Yes.
Roger Brock.
Yes.
William Hutton.
Yes.
Kathleen Hill.
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays, 0 abstentions. Motion passed.
I see no old business. Has anything changed?
No old business.
Okay, so we will move into, okay, so we have new business. Is Z 2209 considered new business, or what are you considering it
Yes, it
tonight?
is.
Yes.
Staff?
Yes.
It is considered new business, okay? So we have Z-2209, a petition of Horseshoe Hammond LLC regarding Title Section 13.50 for an amendment of the developmental variance granted in case number Z-96-16 to address and update the dimensions for the sign located at the right-of-way at 1052, 1032 Indianapolis Boulevard to allow for a sign that is 140 feet tall and 60 feet wide, which is a total of 9,400 feet. And to listen to the, as far as presentation, we will also do Z-2209B, petition of Horseshoe Hammond LLC regarding Title Section 21.21, parent C, regarding approval to add an additional two-sided sign at the base of the existing with the dimensions of 20 feet wide and 10 feet tall, total of 200 square feet. And we'll listen to the cases A and B together, but we will have separate as far as comments from the audience and as far as a separate vote. Could we have all the requirements been met?
Yes, they have.
Okay. Do we have Johnny Depp, or do we have someone else? I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that's a compliment.
It is a compliment, it is a compliment. I've known him for a few years.
I promise you, well, I'm not going to judge others, so. Thank you. Scott Yaney, 9301 Calumet Avenue, Suite 2F, Munster, Indiana. First of all, thank you for being here. I feel awfully audacious stepping to the mic for all of you to be here and just come hear from me tonight. But I'll try to keep us moving. I'm honored to represent Horseshoe Hammond this evening, and Horseshoe Hammond LLC, but it is the Horseshoe Hammond that we all know that came to our community some years ago in 1996, and a lot has happened since then. But we've got to look back at something that was done in 1996, and that is a previous iteration of this board. And I think maybe a couple of you on here, perhaps, maybe considered a sign variance at that time. We all know the iconic sign that's out there now. I've put images in the material so we could all orient ourselves, but it's the big sign that we all know. We can see it as we're driving on the Skyway, and it has been a feature of the landscape now for quite some years. You know, we're getting up there already, almost 30 years already, right? I remember kind of the discussion, debate as to whether they should come in, and they've been here for quite some time. But one of the things that was considered in 1996, and at that time it was Empress. Horseshoe eventually, I'm not a Horseshoe representative other than tonight, so I don't want to get that whole train of events incorrect, but I've outlined some of that. But in essence, Horseshoe Hammond is the successor to Empress, acquired an interest in Empress, and then there was a transition to Jack Binion, and then on to Horseshoe Hammond. But the BZA in 1996 gave a variance decision, and the findings of that, the BZA on June 26th of 1996, so coming right around to the same month and time, approved a request to install a double-faced pylon display sign approximately 79 feet in height and 40 feet at the widest point tapered toward the bottom. And we found some old blueprints of that sign that I included in the material. Now, when we look at the actual minutes and findings, it didn't give us that specificity. But looking at the request, that was the request that this board considered, but there were never specific parameters set at that time by this board as to, okay, how big is the sign out there? We'll grant you the variance. Hey, here's a nice rendering of a sign. Here's all your, sign plan. By the way, I'm talking about city property. This sign is actually, it's not on Horseshoe property. This is property owned by the city of Hammond that is then leased to Horseshoe. We've got a clover leaf out there, but not a full clover leaf. We've got just a little section of a clover leaf, if you will, but we still kind of that middle section, and that's where this sign is situated. Well, all right, 79-foot high sign, 40 foot at the base. I'm not real good at just driving by and estimating measurements, but those are way off for what's there now. The sign that is there now, that is the lighted sign that says Horseshoe Casino with the horseshoe at the top and then the H, is 140 feet tall and 60 feet wide. I think that's at its widest point, and is two-sided. But there are some other changes in kind of the depiction of that sign. We don't know exactly what, nobody came back before this board to ask for, hey, we ended up doing a bigger sign. We have discovered that it was fully permitted, so presumably some review took place, and perhaps it was decided at that time, well, We approved a variance, and this fits within. I'm guessing perhaps there were, perhaps Don Novak, perhaps the building commissioner at the time had discussion, but it was fully permitted and a sign was put up, but it was certainly much bigger than the sign plan given to this board. Well, why do we even care? Why did this come up? Horseshoe proposes a sign at the base. And to do that, they needed to come in and request approval for a sign at the base. So they started meeting with Brian and Tom and going through this. And that then led to, hey, well, what has been approved out there? And this then led to the dive, to layer by layer by layer, kind of peeling it back. So Horseshoe thought they had a little project on their hands and kind of were handling it internally, and then it got much bigger, and they said, Scott, can you help us with the documents? And here I am. So at the base, Horseshoe wants to put a sign that would be 20 feet wide and 10 feet tall. It'd be a two-sided sign that would be situated at the bottom of the larger sign. And it's intended to communicate with motorists who are entering the property. This isn't to let people far and wide know, as though, there are reasons that sign is that size, and I'll address those in the materials here later on. But they want to have this sign at the base to give people who are entering the property knowledge of what is going on at a particular time at the casino, and obviously it's meant to communicate with their patrons. But that request necessitated us going back and setting parameters on the 1996 approval. And so the first item that we're asking for in 2209A is essentially an amendment of case 9616. And there are three items that we're requesting that this board set parameters based on what is out there right now. So we're requesting an amendment of 9616 to provide that signage on the property will not exceed 140 feet in height, will not exceed 60 feet in width, and will not exceed 8,400 square feet of signage area. That is roughly the signage area that's out there, but it's hard to get a precise count with the configuration of the sign. So in working with Tom and Brian, it was suggested that we should go with 8,400 feet. So we're asking for amendment of 9616 to provide those upper limits. So we all know from now on, so Horseshoe says, hey, we'd like to build a bigger sign. I don't have any expectation that's coming, but you all can say, no, we already considered this, and these were the parameters we set. In case number 22-09B, we're asking, and we are in an S1 district. This little kind of piece of property is in an S1 zoning district that's owned by the city. And so it's got some unique requirements when it comes to signage. We don't have like your C4 zoning and, our typical parameters. In an S1 district, a sign can only be 32 square feet. So we are asking for approval to install a 200 square foot base sign. I've called it a base sign. It's going to exceed that 32-foot limitation, but it's basically 10 by 22 sides. And so those are the two requests this evening. As in any developmental variance, I've got to show you that we can meet the requisite criteria. And the first is that the approval won't be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. First of all, anything that's done, so this new base sign, it will be fully permitted, subject to Mr. Vale's review, Tom and Brian weighing in, confirming if this board approves, it allows us to go forward, that anything that is done out there or ever will be done is in conformity of the authority granted. Looking at this request, we don't see that it will create any safety issues whatsoever. First, the current sign, because I'm asking you to kind of look back in 1996 at the sign that's out there. You know, it's been the same configuration now for more than 25 years. It provides important direction and for the safe and orderly flow of traffic. And I address this later, and it is important. It's not an inconsiderable flow of traffic. This property is very unique for many reasons. One of them is the number of motorists that visit it 24 hours a day. And so we need to direct folks how to find this place, and we also have to be cognizant that they're coming on our expressways. They're coming on the tollway. They may see it in all sorts of directions, but it is important that we direct them to the property and not into our residential neighborhoods. Another interesting feature of this property is where it's located. The state statute, the enabling statute for casino legislation, remember this this is still, it's a little less of a boat than it was initially. And you'll remember, you know, around the state, different areas, we were creating little creeks and filling them, kind of big ditches in places, but this facility has to be situated on Lake Michigan. So it's not like we could pick the optimal site in Hammond, put a lot of property assembled around that to support this. We were very limited in where it needed to go at the time, right? And until recently, we had the state line generating plant, had to fit in around there. And obviously the water department is really important out there, and what goes on, that's a symbiotic relationship. But it also means that it had to be in this location. We had to give direction to motorists, you know, taking the toll road and the skyway, avoid confusion. So we respectfully submit that the current sign has definitely helped with that. As for the base sign, we contend it won't create any safety issues. Rather, it's intended to communicate with people entering the property and or exiting the property. The base sign is not a beacon, right? It's just to communicate more directly. And the level, where it's situated does not impair vision of any motorist. This larger sign, our beacon sign, if you will, is situated far away from the turning area that would obscure the vision of any motorist. So the setbacks and the height don't contribute to any problems for motorists. Our second criteria is we have to show you that the use and value of the area adjacent to the property won't be adversely affected and substantially adversely affected. To the contrary, I think this is where we need to kind of step back and say, hey, what has gaming brought to Hammond? And when we look at it and kind of what it has started out, just on the property itself, right, there's a 90,000 square foot facility, the venue now, right? I mean, just aside from where we started out with the strictly casino and the smaller boat, and now we have something much different. It's kind of hard to think of it if it's a boat, even though it does. We all know that it is, right? But now there are other, you know, there's the Jack Minion Steakhouse, so his name lives on. But there are other venues out there, the parking garages that serve the property. There has been significant enhancement to the value of that piece of property. Obviously, the pavilion with its multiple food outlets. You know, I tried to kind of give us all a sense. I gave, you know, where I could, some Google Earth images from 1985 to today. You know, one of the really notable changes is look at our marina. I mean, you can see the features, obviously, with the casino and what it has directly contributed. But this also led to the marina, which is certainly something that is very valuable to this community and has enhanced in so many ways what goes on. And then we look, directly to the south and to the west, and we look at the commercial development that has taken place in that corridor, and the plans for more that is kind of in the works out there to continually develop that area. And it looks, and we have preserved, all of us collectively, the migratory bird sanctuary. All right, I mean that's an important feature of this, and the beach. But a lot of what has been kind of cleaned up out there is some of the legacy problems that we had in that area that would not have been possible without this big infusion. Move on to number 3, and that is strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property. And this is where, I don't put these documents together in a vacuum. It is a conversation, an evolving conversation. But one of the things that we do in putting this together is think not just about this request, because in some ways you I don't ever want to presume anything, but kind of say, all right, Scott, we got that sign out there. It's been there for a while. Why are you talking so long? Well, one of the things is that we need to consider anything that we do, and Brian and Tom are very cognizant of this, guides future expectations of other property owners. And so in this circumstance, it was very important to Tom and Brian that we put in with particularity why we had the initial sign, why this sign is out there, because it is a unique property, and I kind of mentioned its location is unique. We have thousands of vehicles that enter and exit that property in 24 hours a day. We have to navigate. Part of this challenge was navigating that railway corridor. That's obviously, as we know, one of the busiest in the United States, probably the world, just in what goes through there. We had to put the overpass to get over those trains, and it was extraordinary. And part of all of this, for all of this to work, requires direction, and it requires direction to motorists so that we don't have them either in our, obviously we care about our folks in Hammond first and foremost, but we also are cognizant of our Hegewisch and other, neighbors up north, outside of Hegewisch a little bit, but we're cognizant of them as well. And if we poured all of this casino traffic because somebody didn't know where to go on those residential streets, that wouldn't work for anyone. And just to give you an idea, when I say a lot of traffic, 2021, 2.24 million guests went through Horseshoe Hammond. And they estimate that's about 1 million vehicles. That's a lot of folks that are traveling. And they're still at, these are COVID levels. Before that, they were much higher. And we, hopefully, God willing, get back more and more to where we once were. But it's important to us. We have a lot of out-of-state visitors, and they need to be directed here. And, if we kind of look at this community, and we've benefited by those folks getting to that property, Horseshoe Hammond, let's see, I want to be careful. Well, I want to avoid, but it's there's a $7 million annual contribution to the Port Authority. $1 million security payment, which is unique to Horseshoe Hammond. And throughout this city, a lot of our infrastructure and a lot of the improvements that we have made, we can trace back to the contributions of that facility. So if we just looked at the zoning ordinance, this zoning ordinance wasn't drawn with the idea, hey, you know what, someday we might have a casino. We now have provisions in place for the casino, but this particular property, this is Hammond property, it's outside. We've addressed now a lot of what is conceived for casino property, and this is something that is ancillary and, is essentially, if we could, we would almost include this as casino property because it's ancillary to it, and it's leased for that purpose. So we think that this is a unique request that we're making, and yeah, it's a really big sign, and there aren't any other signs of this size in Hammond, and there probably aren't likely to be. There is a specific need for it in this circumstance. And so that's why I've spent some time with you this evening, is to try to, make sure that put the brakes on anything beyond what you want. Also set useful guidance and parameters for why we are asking to do something that's somewhat unique, why it was done in 1996, and we're asking to revisit, allow what's there now, and then permit us to put this additional sign at the base. Thank you.
Mr. Yanni, did you want to make any additional comments as far as in regard to B, as far as the base sign at this time? Because
My
we
comments,
hear this now, too.
yeah, my comments, if you would consider my comments to cover B, because I did reference it throughout the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Do any of the members have any questions? Hearing none, we will open this for our public hearing. Anybody in the audience like to address us? I'm seeing none. Did we have any comments that came in through the mail or email?
No, we did not, but make sure, we asked for Z22, 09A and 09B.
Okay, this one is for comments in regard to Z2209A, in regard to the dimensions of the larger sign. Is there anybody? Is there somebody on?
Yeah, I don't see anyone online either.
Okay, all right, and I don't see anybody on camera. Did we get any emails or anything? Phone calls regarding 2209?
We're addressed.
Yeah, we didn't receive any demonstrations, no.
So we have no comments from the public? Then we will close this period of public expression. All right, then we will move on to any other questions from board members? Hearing none, we will move on to do we have a request for the staff report? And that the staff present the recommendations and any amendments to the staff report?
Sure thing. So in the matter of KZ2209A, staff has reviewed the petitioner's request and recommends that the BZA grant the developmental variance should the board feel the petitioner has met the standards, subject to one condition, BZA approval of the developmental variance Z2209B.
Also have some findings of fact that have been presented by the staff. We have a motion to adopt the staff report And as far as the amendment subject to BZA approval of the developmental variance for Z2209B and the findings of fact into the record.
I make that motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt the staff report and the proposed finding of fact into the record. Could we have a roll call vote?
Dennis Radowski,
Yes.
Nancy Reagan,
Yes.
Roger Brock.
Yes.
William Hutton.
Yes.
Kathleen Hill.
Yes?
5 ayes, 0 nays, 0 abstentions, motion passed.
Do we have a motion in regard to the developmental variance?
I'll make the motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the developmental variance for Z2209 parens A. We have a roll call vote?
Dennis Radowski,
Yes.
Nancy Reagan,
Yes.
Roger Brock.
Yes.
William Hutton,
Yes.
Kathleen Hill.
Yes?
5 ayes, 0 nays, 0 abstentions, motion passed.
Right. Do any board members have any questions in regard to Z2209B in regard to the additional sign, base sign? Okay, we will open it to public comments in regard to Z2209B for the base sign. I do not see anyone in the audience. I do not see anyone on video. And have there been any comments, emails, or anything from the staff that they received?
I did not receive anything other than, First District Councilman Mark Kowinski did express that, the aesthetic and the appearance of the new base sign, he wished it could be spruced up a little, but I didn't receive anything else, besides that, so.
And that has been information for us. Okay, do we have a recommendation in regard to a request from the, oh, sorry, I will close the public comments for Z2209B. Do we have a request from the board in regard to having the staff report presented with the recommendations and any amendments? Do we have such a request?
I can go ahead.
Request it, let's go.
So in the case of Z2209B, staff has reviewed the petitioner's request and recommends that the BZA grant the developmental variance should the board feel the petitioner has met the standards subject to one condition, BZA approval of the developmental variance Z2209A.
All right, we've had the staff report and the recommendations. Any other questions from board members? And we also have, the staff has prepared for us proposed findings of fact that we would like to, any comments, any questions, any changes in findings of fact? Hearing none, do we have a motion to adopt the staff report and the proposed findings of fact as presented into the record?
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to adopt the staff report and the proposed findings of fact into the record. Do we have a roll call vote?
Dennis Radowski,
Yes.
Nancy Reagan,
Yes.
Roger Brock.
Yes.
William Hutton,
Yes.
Kathleen Hill.
Yes?
5 ayes, 0 nays, 0 abstentions, motion passed.
Do we have a motion in regard to Z2209B for the developmental variance?
I'll make the motion to approve.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second to approve Z2209B for developmental variance in regard to the base sign. Roll call vote?
Dennis Radowski,
Yes.
Nancy Reagan,
Yes.
Roger Brock.
Yes.
William Hutton.
Yes.
Kathleen Hill.
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays, 0 abstentions, motion passed.
Thank you for taking the time to present everything to us. Any comments from the commissioners? Any staff comments?
Just wanted to let you guys know, it's looking like we may not have a June hearing.
You just had one.
Well, this is technically the May hearing on June 1st, I know, right? But there may be a couple cases at end of July.
Okay, and that will be July 26th,
I believe,
correct? Going back to it.
yes, yes.
Any public comments? Hearing no public comments. We will wish everybody now a happy 4th of July, I guess.
Yeah.
And
Same to you.
Enjoy the summer, enjoy the weather, and we will officially adjourn the meeting.
prices.
Don't even.
Thank you.
All in favor?